All right. Okay. Yay. Niklas, how is the sound? All right. Awesome. So, hi. I've kind of met all of you, but I'm not Tanya. I'm the campus minister in every nation. And that basically is just a very fancy word for I work with students, and that's kind of what I do. So, today we're actually busy with our Day Talk series. In the past 2 weeks, we've already looked at Decide Your Guide, the first interview with Trevor and Yvette. If you've missed it, it's recorded, it's on YouTube. And that one was great. We also talked about I'll have a whole one, please. And then last week, we had our first interview with Joris and Lissa about. What was it about again? Wait, I'll have a book. It was about. Ooh, yes, right. Thanks, Kyra. This one was a test. No, yep. No. So this week we're going to be talking about lessons from Lover's Lane, and they'll introduce themselves in a bit and why they will handle that topic as well. But just so you know, if there is like a video playing and we don't have sound, for some reason, since Sunday, no one's used the tech stuff, but I'll suddenly, some of the sound stuff is out of the program, so I need to put it in again, but I didn't see it in time. So we'll fix that, we'll manage all of that, and that's okay. Now, with that said, this is a 5-week series, so we have 2 more to go after tonight. But first of all, Joris and Lissa, thanks for making time again for us.
You're welcome.
I am so glad you guys are here. I asked Joris and Lissa because, well, first of all, they're very good friends of mine. And I've seen them date and do dating. And I just think their story in particular, to me, is a great example of how they did that. They took their time. They, well, they might be able to explain it better than me. But they dated in community. And it was very open. They had certain specific friends involved in just the dating and getting to know one another, hang out a lot in groups, and the way they went the entire process from just starting to know each other and really not even being in a relationship yet to starting to know each other in a group of friends and just hang out together to then to the point of actual, okay, well, we kind of have a relationship. And then they did even like a pre-marriage course and were very intentional about getting to know one another and getting to know these topics about one another, like finances that you normally never talk about without being intentional. But they did that intentionally before they got engaged. So I'm just like, okay, if we can learn from one couple, they're definitely one of them. So with that said, Joris and Lissa, maybe just introduce yourselves a little bit. Share those parts of the stories that I've left out. Uh,
Well, thank you, Natanya. So maybe we introduced ourselves last week, but today we're gonna do that again for some new people. So I am Joris. I work as a fleet car manager. Our company has a lot of cars, and I try to manage that stuff. I have a lot of hobbies. I love to sail, snowboard, and everything that has to do with cars. Also with Lisa now, but also I was raised and born and raised in a Christian family, and yeah, it's a loving, warm family, and it was awesome to grow in there. I made soon already a decision to follow Jesus, and yeah, maybe Lisa, you can introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Lisa. I am 27 years, 28. Oh, time's going very fast. 28 years old. I work as a team leader in a freight forwarding company. I love flowers. And I come from a Christian family, but my parents are divorced multiple times. And I am the oldest of 4 kids. and we are married since September, so almost 8 months now. So that's a bit about us. Yeah, as you can hear, we are from different backgrounds, so maybe today we can go in a bit about that and how the experience of both of us was. Yeah.
Definitely. Just one funny thing. You know how Joris got Lisa? And we've told this one a lot of times, but you gotta hear this. So Trevor, our senior pastor, who also did the first interview with his wife, with us, we kind of, yeah, Joris was here like for a long time already in church, and he has a good relationship with our senior pastor as well, with Trevor. And on Sunday, sometimes we would kind of like play this joke on Joris and be like, hey, Joris is still single, so who is a single lady here in the room? And then we would put his phone number on the screen or something like that. so, so one of the times we did that, Lisa was actually in the room. So
I didn't do the first move to make it clear.
it is a funny story.
But he pumped up, that's for sure.
Well, it got him the attention and the
Yeah,
kick in the butt.
indeed,
That,
indeed.
was good. All right, I'm taking my questions with me. So how tonight is going to work is we're going to do an interview style. I'm going to ask them a ton of questions. And then at one point, there will also be an option for Q&A. So you guys can also throw out questions. I'll probably repeat them in the mic just because of the live stream and the recording. And then they can interact. So it's very interactive, this series. And it's supposed to be very practical. So that's what we're going to try and make this as well. All right, so we are the 20th of May. So lessons from Lover's Lane. I want to start with asking you guys if there is a right and a wrong way to do dating and relationships.
So, to answer that in black and white, I personally think there is a right way and a wrong way. I do believe the wrong, maybe it's good to start with what is not how to. And I personally believe that it all depends or comes down to the goal. I think once you have a goal to set for, is this maybe a potential to marry this person? I think you're in the right direction. If we know guys are like interested in some other stuff and ladies are interested in other stuff. So there is a right and a wrong, I personally believe. And yeah, maybe it comes down to the intention, like I just said. But I think there's as a Christian believer, I think there is even an extra dimension into it. I do this together with God, which is one of the ways as well. So maybe you can explain a few points.
I think you can date, like yours is saying, in two. What is your goal of the dating? Are you really looking for a marriage and a future with someone, or is there a brokenness in you that you are longing to be with someone but don't have really the correct perspective on it? So you can be dating and compromise just because you really want to have someone. It doesn't matter who it is, as long as you have a relationship, it's fine, and you are compromising things you shouldn't compromise, or values that actually are important to you, you are putting them aside just to have a relationship because everyone has a relationship, so I should have one too. And I think that's really a wrong way of dating. It's unhealthy. So, and the right way, if you are doing it together with God and praying about it and having a journey together with God and someone to meet someone, I think that's a right way of dating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically what it comes down to when I hear you guys talk is what we talked about in the first week. Decide your guide on forehand. And if you decide your guide as, yeah, well, if you're a Christian, then hopefully your guide will be to do it in God's way, which is obviously leading up to marriage. So, and you also mentioned like, don't do it out of brokenness or like, I don't want to be alone anymore, or I feel so alone, so I'm gonna start dating. And just to have a small recap, Trevor puts this equation together, and he gives this example of 1 + 1 is, if you put it in a marriage relationship way, it's 1. But if you do like a half times 1, still a half. If you do 1 times 1, still 1. If you do a quarter times 1, it's still a quarter. So the idea is, if you're a whole 1 times a whole 1, then you stay a whole 1. But if you do a half, or someone is broken, I mean, we all kind of are, but then I mean, yeah, if you're a whole 1, you can have interdependent relationships. You have good boundaries. You're able to function independently, but you're also able to work together with someone and to partially depend upon someone without becoming codependent upon them. As in, codependent means I need you to need me. So, for example, I have a very strong personality and I need to take care of someone, and then I now step into a relationship with someone that needs to be cared for and that longs for that. We become codependent upon one another, and it actually forms a very unhealthy relationship. So when we're talking about brokenness, or like a half 1 times 1 is a half 1, we're really talking about that dynamic. And then basically it's just, yeah, if you're a half 1 and you put it next to someone whole, then you're not going to pull each other up. You're going to pull each other down. And that's not the goal of it. You want to have a whole relationship. So if you've missed that sermon or like that interview, go watch it again. But maybe with that, if we say there's a right and a wrong way to do dating, you also said like, if the end goal is marriage, you need to goal in mind. Did you two start dating with like, okay, that's the one I'm gonna marry, or did you start dating with the intention of, let's get to know each other and we'll see?
I was intentional about asking her out, and I was intentional about getting to know her. I was intentional with, I am checking out if she is for me marriage material. It's material is so wrong, but yeah, they say it in English like that, so I just repeat it. So I think I was definitely intentional and look after certain values from her, and what we do for fun, and is there a common ground and common interests, and even different interests that I might be thinking, hey, this is nice, so which is, but on the other hand, maybe you can share from your side.
I think for me as well, I was looking, is it someone I could marry? You take it, it's not the first thing, you're just looking out, is it someone that I could marry, that I can build a marriage with? So I didn't have other intentions than that. If I look at my past, it has been different. So yeah.
Maybe it is also you go getting you're along, you're on a journey, and then at a certain point you bump into each other, like, no, I don't like this, or I don't like that. And even then, for us, it was for me, I'm actually conflict avoiding. I'm going around, uh, but she has that even more than I have. So at a certain point, it was a challenge. And then, like, is this the end of the relationship? You know, is this going to stop? So from there on, we're like, no, we're just getting to know each other a little bit better. You know, thanks to Trevor, who gave us advice and sermons around conflict is your friend and stuff like that. It doesn't feel like it, but afterwards, you just grow deeper every time. And if you fix the moments where you bump into each other, or where you hurt each other, or you have expectations that aren't met, then I think yeah, you have every time an opportunity to get to know each other a little bit deeper and further. And then during the journey, you're like checking once in a while, hey, is this someone who I would marry? You know, at a certain point, I got these questions from other people and also from my own heart, like, where is this stuff going? You know, when you're in a relationship, everybody asks, oh, so what's the next step? You know, when are you going to ask her? And then you ask her, when is the marriage? And then now it's when are they coming babies? So it's been a frustration along the way for me, but I've learned how to overcome that, and yeah, how to handle and communicate in a special, new, inspiring way.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, but did I understand it correctly that you say, like, it's not like you go in to dating with, like, that person I'm gonna marry. You went in with, I want to get to know that person to see if that would be someone that I could end up marrying. Your intention is getting to know one another. Okay.
Correct.
Yes. So maybe just something you shared it last week as well, but
About the kiss.
no, not about the kiss. I was actually thinking something else. No. I was going for Trevor, who says, well, predominantly to the guys, but also to the girls, that you should ask everyone, well, not everyone, but like you should ask people out at least once, and that the girls should say yes at least once as well. Did that play a role?
Yeah, definitely. I think that all goes around. If this, yeah, you just can't write someone off. You know, I think if somebody asks why shouldn't you, it's just maybe getting a new friend. If the expectations are clear, maybe that's a good one to start off. If the expectation is like, oh, I asked Lisa and she's like, oh, this is my husband, and her expectations are way too high, then this date will be the last date. If this date is just like, hey, we're going for a coffee or a drink or whatever, then it's like something totally different. And then the tension is way less. So one of the things I learned during dating is make fun. And I'm like, I mean, in a nice way, making fun and make the time the best time. And sometimes I was so cramped with the dating and like, oh, what is all this? And so tensioned up, and that we don't have anything to say. Well, nice weather. Yeah. So you have these awkward conversations then because you're both picking up that tension, you know. So I think it's good to let these things go, and the more you try it. On the other hand, I really want to add something. It's in these times we have like guys are players and stuff like that. I think if we're talking about the right way and the wrong way, what is the goal of these players? And if I say make fun, I don't mean it like that. I mean it like just together with friends, hang out, and be wise in the things you do. So I think that is one of the one of the things. Maybe
I think that we also can go in this conversation about people having a list. You hear sometimes that they say, and he needs to be this and that color of hair, and whatever kind of things people put on a list. And I I want to say a thing about that. Just be careful about having a list, because some people, like Natanya say, you will just don't give them a chance because they don't check one of your boxes. And it can be a really awesome person or someone that can be different than normal person that you would standard date, but they can be even better than the other ones. So don't do that. I think you can have a short list of things, like if you are a Christian, you want someone to be a Christian as well, or if you want kids, that it is someone that wants to have kids, because that goes about values. So if you have certain values that are important, that you have those on your list, that's okay, but don't write someone off because they are doing a job you don't like, or they have another hair color that you do not prefer. It's sad if you are just selecting people on those silly things. And the older you come, the bigger the list, and the less person that are out there that you can have a date with. So don't do it. Just have a short list with some values and think them through. Yeah.
I think that's really good. You mentioned in the beginning that you both kind of have like a different past, and so we were talking about lessons from Lover's Lane. So we started off right and wrong, way to date, to kind of put that all in a framework. But what has been the difference for you guys between past relationships and your relationship now? And then maybe you can also elaborate a little bit on, yeah, the differences in your past, and then difference between then and now.
Like I just mentioned, one of the things I learned during during my dating process was taking things too serious, and I was just checking like, oh man, and I'm so tensioned, and I don't know what to say and stuff like that. So if you hear me now, you're like, what, this guy? But I was so shy and so like having a low self-esteem and all these things. I don't had the courage on the inside, and if you don't feel it there, man, it's like hard, you know. So that's one of the things I learned the hard way.
I think one of the big differences between Joris and I is that Joris have had some dates but never a relationship. So I am the first he has a relationship with. For me, it's different. So that's a really big difference between us. And his background is totally different than mine. So his family, the parents are still together, and my parents are divorced when I was 7, and then afterwards both are divorced twice again. So I have a lot of brokenness from that, as a child, but also as a teenager. And I have had relationship, but before Joris, and some bad ones as well, just to because I had really a gap into my heart, and I wanted someone to love me, because I was looking for a safe home. I wanted to have a safe place and my own family to be in. And then you just want to find a guy that wants to love you. And I think guys have a radar or something, but they will find the girls that are very easy. And I didn't have values. I had nothing, so I compromised with everything. And before you know, you also have sex, even if you should not have it, just to have some love, or to hope that someone wants to love you. So it was very, very, very unhealthy, the relationships I had before Joris, and it has all to do with low self-esteem, a very big hole in my heart. I didn't know Jesus, so even Jesus wasn't there to fill the gap. And then you make decisions based on feelings that sometimes are even lies, that because the devil plays with it and he's just using everything he can. And in that way, we have a very, very different past. As I said, I was his first relationship and the first one to have sex with, while in my case, it wasn't like that. So it's a very different past. And yeah, I think the boundaries are different. I had no boundaries in the past, but when I was dating with Joris, it was different because Jesus became my guide in the last 6 years, and it changed everything. So where in the past I had no boundaries and I didn't make compromise. I compromised everything. It was a different with Joris. We had boundaries, like this is something that can, and I protected my heart not to fall in love just with an idea of having a relationship again, but really being very rational on who is this person that I am getting to know, and is it someone I can continue it to have a marriage. I think that's a very big difference. Also, the communication. In the past, I didn't communicate as much as I did with Joris, and I think it's also because Joris was very intentional on that, on talking about values, about goals, where are we going through, expectations. It all these things I didn't know them because I didn't had teachers like Trevor who learned all these things, and people like Natanya in my friends world. So when you know all these things, it can totally change your dating life if you're really intentional on the information that you're getting. So that's, for me, all these things are a big difference. Also, when you were talking about dependency, I really had a codependent relationship. I don't even think I was a half. I was 25 something. So the relationship I had before yours was a very unhealthy one, and I could only see it afterwards when we broke up. I could see how codependent I was. I couldn't handle it if that person would not miss me, or if he would do something with friends. Then I was like, what am I going to do then? I had no hobbies. I didn't know myself. I had almost no opinion about something. So I was really, it must have been horrible for the guy. Really, if I thinking about it, it's just dragging me all the time because I couldn't take care of myself. It's, if you are in that place, I can only say one thing. First, work on yourself and get to know Jesus and let him make you a whole, or almost, because we need to be one, and everyone has some brokenness and we still have, but it's not in that way that I am putting Joris down and Joris is putting me down. So I think that is really a big, big difference from my relationship now with Joris and in the past, that I can say now I am healthy and I'm fine. If Joris is going on a weekend with friends, I'm like, do it. I will just go and do my flower stuff and bake some things and go with my friends. And it's good to be in a relationship together, but also I think you can say that you are a whole if you can just function completely okay on yourself if the other person is not with you. It's okay to miss the person. I will miss Joris if he's on a weekend, but I'm okay. I can function. I will eat. I will go with my friends. I will still do things. So that's a very, very important thing that you need to consider.
think next to that, especially when we're talking about what being whole looks like, to make it a little bit even more practical, for example, next to having grown in self awareness and at least having an idea of who you are, how you function, what your strengths are, for example, I think that is very important and something you probably can intentionally work towards too. And it will only strengthen you once you actually get in that relationship because, I mean, I, I know from experience, it's very hard to actually get into that relationship not knowing who you are or what you like and what you dislike or not knowing what you're good at. And then automatically, because you don't know, you don't have that self awareness, you also don't have that self esteem. So then it's very easy for you to be dependent upon your partner to tell you, like, oh, let's go eat that, or oh, let's go do that, or crap, he's not here. What am I supposed to do now? Because you literally just don't know because you're not used to it. So I think that's something so important to work on before, just for yourself, even because you will bring so much more to the table once you get into that relationship. I think a second aspect that you haven't mentioned, but that probably was in that codependent relationship, and you can elaborate in a little bit, but is emotional regulation. A lot of people who get into relationships, especially when they're young, um, and our generation on top of that hasn't they didn't learn to name emotions, to identify them, and to come back to a place of joy by themselves. So if you have a whole person, it's not because they don't have any brokenness, it's because they know how to handle that and come from the brokenness or the situation that is happening back to place of, okay, I'm safe, I feel safe, I have joy, I'm okay again, and they can do it on their own. That's what emotional regulation is called. So for example, I had a situation with my neighbors this week that scared me big time. And if I am emotionally mature at that point, then I can bring myself from that place of fear back to that place of joy, not by denying the emotion or by denying what happened. Like, I don't do denial, but I can say, okay, I'm scared right now. Why am I scared? What made me feel that way? Okay, what am I gonna do to get rid of the fear and to actually work through the fear and come back to that place of joy? And I point to my forehead because your joy center is here. Um, so that's a big part of wholeness. And yeah, is that something that played in that relationship as well? I kind of
Yeah.
guess yes if I know you and your story,
Yes.
but
I can totally relate. It's really, even yours is saying, I am more conflict avoiding, and it comes, of course, from my past because my parents divorced multiple times. So divorce for me is like a separation that's never been, that doesn't get solved. So I need to renew that path in my brain that conflict is not a bad thing. But in the past, when there was a conflict, I was so scared and I crying. I was so emotional. All the rational was gone, and I was a mess. And I couldn't calm myself. It was the other person that needed to calm me and say it's okay, it's fine. And with Joris, it's different. I can rationalize, like Natanya is saying, like, okay, I'm scared. What's happening? Is it this situation, or is it something from the past that's making me feel like this? So I totally agree with what you are saying, that if you can do that by yourself, it's a good thing, and it's something you need, I think, as well. It's
yeah.
very important.
I
Yeah.
mean, your partner will push your buttons.
Yeah.
Tell me if
Big
I'm wrong. You
time.
guys are like the married ones, but I think
One
your partner will push your buttons more than anyone else.
one of I agree totally. But on the other, yeah, Lisa is really sweet, so it's not that bad for me. But for her, oh man. But on the other hand, when I started dating with Lisa, she just went through a whole course of emotionally healthy woman. And that was also really healing to her heart, getting along with her emotions. And so she went through that course, actually, small group a few times. She gave it to other people as well. So she really handled that material, and until the day even last week we had a talk around that. Then she said, "Oh, I'm in this stage, so now I recognize that, and I have to calm myself down in this way or that way." And so that was really nice for me as well as a guy. Sometimes we see on TV, maybe I see on TV these women who are everywhere, and then like the guy is like, "How do we have to handle this?" So for both sexes, it is really helpful. On the other hand, there should be an emotionally healthy path for guys, for men as well. But they made it actually the emotionally healthy leader. So maybe you can do that.
Just do the root course. That will also help.
That will help as well, really, big times.
Yeah. I think I'm glad you're mentioning men, because like women are often seen as the emotional ones. But I think in that sense you're the exception. But most men are not very in tune with their emotions. Like as a kid, it's not okay to cry. Toughen up, you know. Think we can all recognize that, like real men don't cry, that kind of thing. Sounds very cliche,
But it is.
It's actually true. Well, I mean, it's true. Like you're taught that, but the consequence of that will be that they're so out of touch with their emotions, they can't emphasize with their partner. They can't actually sit next to them and be like, "I'm so sorry you feel that way," and just validate your partner's feelings. So you have two extremes. You have women who are kind of like, well, not all women. I'm generalizing now, but so don't take the generalization. But you have in that example that you always gave, women that are kind of like, whoop, emotional vomit. And then you have most of the time, or a lot of the time, men that are actually so emotionally unaware and so shut down that they don't know how to handle that. So you have two extremes and opposites that then come together in a relationship. Yeah,
That's messed up.
it is.
Yeah.
Um,
It will crash.
it is. So in that sense, it's important for both guys and women to actually work on that emotional regulation before you get there, to not get in that unhealthy relationship thing. And if you do, like, okay, it's fine, you can still work on it. I mean, we're young, but yeah, I think
Well, guys, if it's an encouragement, when you show some feelings, it really helps in the relationship. So then a woman knows, oh, he loves me, and a woman knows he cares about me. So I think it's super awesome if you, as a man, can show these things. Jesus showed the example, so I'm trying to follow that. The shortest verse in the Bible is actually Jesus wept. Period. So yeah, we laugh with that, but yeah, it's true.
absolutely. So, Lisa, I heard you mention the emotionally healthy women. I remember you doing that. But with that said, have you guys intentionally done things different between the two of you than in past experiences, past relationships?
Well, maybe I'm gonna hit first. I think I had through the years of going to church, I had some people who really guided me, and like you guys are. And I followed courses and lessons, and if there's anything to know about the other opposite sex, you want to learn that, because you don't understand. So we still don't, but so no, I'm joking. Lisa is very special. So I think even Trevor many years ago gave a few sermons, actually a full series on date talk and stuff like this, and I learned tons of that. And I tried it. I said to my own heart, I'm gonna implement this, and I'm gonna try to do this as good as possible. And one of these things is like you have this chivalry. Is that the chivalry? Yeah, that thing. Please don't laugh with me. My English is not so good. But yeah, I try to follow that, because that on the inside makes me a hero, and it makes me really strong once I know I'm doing the right thing. So in that sense, I really tried my full best and full potential. Everything I had, I gave that into the dating I went through. So very intentional is what I would say. Also, once we started dating, Trevor again around conflict, he gave around communication actually, and a very good sermon or series. And one of the things is, if you do good communication, he explained this, like if you have an expectation, which is like there, and you have like the reality meeting up to here, then the difference between that is actually the offense you have against the offense you have against someone. So thanks for English. I need a helper. So and yeah, from there on, I try to not set expectations, but first talk around that, that we were really clear on that, that we were honest and open. One of the things we talked through just in preparation of this, we talked about how the world sometimes learns on, if you get a text message, you have to wait 3 days, to make the other person. So we bumped into that actually, and I said to my heart, like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna answer honest, polite, and not let her, what's the name? Yeah, hang or wait or whatever, and make worries. And yes, so, and she did actually as well. We didn't talk about that, but there was a respectable way between us, which was like really nice and really peaceful actually.
I think what was a big difference is that we were very careful from the beginning not to make it a big of a deal, and first build a friendship. And before we got a relationship, there were 4 months between the two, from dating to relationship. So we were not very fast, even when people would ask us, and they put pressure on you at a certain point. When you are 2 months dating, they're like, are you a couple yet? And then no, not yet. Or we would not call it that yet. So we discussed these things together. Like you're just saying, we were very open and honest about our expectations toward each other, which makes it peaceful, and you do not have to worry, or you are not scared, like, where is it going through? Is he honest? Are the motives correct? Is he really going for a long-term relationship? Or so that made it a very safe environment for us to date in, just by having that good communication. Also, the difficult talks we need to have. Like I said, Joris didn't, but I have had sexual relationships before Joris, so I confessed that to Joris, that I have had that in the past. So that was a tough talk for for us to have, especially for me, because I had to be very vulnerable. And I think it was the first time in a relationship that I have been so vulnerable about myself and my past, and to talk all these things through. But which makes, our relation was going in a different stage when we could talk about these things. And I wouldn't say do this on the first 2 or 3 dates, but when you feel that, okay, the moment is there to have these conversations, then go on having those tough talks as well. It's
I remember a point where we came in church, and just before we entered church, I said like, let's keep it under the radar. Otherwise, everybody will ask us, "Are you guys a couple?" and stuff like that. So we put the poker face on once we went into a crowd, and only a few select friends knew, like Natalia, like. But otherwise, I really wanted to go. But beforehand, we talked about that, like. Once we get into a crowd, how will we handle these questions? And since we're not both feeling, we like the pace we're in now, so let's keep it like this and don't hang it on the big walls or shout it from the rooftops. Or everybody has his own choice, but that's the part we did. And I can imagine that not every woman would be would be happy with that thought, because you want to be seen and stuff like that. But on the other hand, I was like, yeah, this is where I'm at. And Lisa was so patient to wait for that and be and follow along and just ride that same wave. So that made it like click with each other as well. One of the things is, you have different stages where you grow together. And yeah, you have the dating stage, and then you have the relationships stage, and then you have the marriage stage. And yeah, you have to be sensitive and talk with each other through these at key points where you bump into stuff or whatever, that you are really honest and open and vulnerable, that thing, with each other. And yeah, if you open your heart to someone, then and you lay it there, and this is for the man, if you lay it there is a chance that somebody can step on it. You just don't give your whole heart directly from the first date. But if you just open it a little bit, and piece by piece you gain trust and confidence in each other, and you share more and deeper stuff from the past and from the desires and the values you have. And so yeah.
I think it's like, it reminds me of the scripture of in Proverbs, where the Bible says, "Guard your heart,
Yes.
from it
Come on.
flows like are the springs of life." I think, um, and that one is one that Trev mentioned during his detox series as well, and it's just so clear to me. Like, Natanya, you don't just give your heart to just anyone. You don't put it open right there. Yes, you can get to know people, but you need to have not just physical boundaries in place, like when it comes to, for example, sex, or but also have emotional boundaries in place that are going to protect your heart. With each stage comes certain responsibility, comes certain levels of trust, and the further you go, like you move them up bit by bit in agreement, like both together. But this something that really stuck with me. Yeah,
Yeah.
you were gonna add something. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's
She
it's
actually wanted to
really
say that.
yeah, it's so important, so important. I did it in my previous relationship, like too fast, and then afterwards, when it it's it's ending, then they have your whole heart crushed, and it's so painful. So, like Joris is saying, you have stages, and depending on the stage where you are, dating, relationship, and marriage, you share different things, and you grow into that together. So it's indeed guarding your heart in the stage you are. And you need to be open, for sure. Like, you need to say sometimes things that are very personal or that are hurting from the past, but say them in the right time. And if you are not sure, should I share this already with this person that you're dating? Check with your friends. Like, is it okay? Do you think we are at the stage where I can share these things? Because if the intentions of the other person are not right, you can be hurt again, and then it goes in a circle, and the next time again it will be even more difficult to share those things because other persons have misused information or stuff like that. So just if you have, let's say, sensitive information, check with friends or other people that you are trusting in your circle. Like, is it okay to share this information already with the person I'm dating or I'm in a relationship with? I would say.
No, I think that's probably like the one of the more important things. And we mentioned that last week as well, that you guys had specific people that you surrounded yourself with, both friends, but that knew about it from the beginning. And hopefully we didn't put pressure like other people
No,
did.
you are fine.
um, but also having like mentors like Trevor and Yvette, for example, that know about the journey from the beginning. So it's really a community thing, and community supports one another in that, and also just shares wisdom and advice. And I think one of the big differences, I mean, for me at least, I don't know about you, um, was when in unhealthy relationships, often we isolate.
Mhm.
Whether we do it ourselves or whether our partner does it that we in a relationship with, as in isolate, as in you constantly do things with the two of you. You forget to involve the community within that, and so um, you can't spot your blind spots anymore. No one sees them. No one's showing them up,
Mhm.
pointing them out to you guys. So you're actually making your word very, very small, which makes it even harder to see whether something is healthy or not.
Mhm.
So I think, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. People that can put on red flags or see, is this person, are the motives correct? Is the relationship healthy? I think that's indeed one that you can only have when you are dating in community and having friends and family and mentors in it as well. So, yeah, that's a very important one. And then when we did the book, of course, I've never done
The book.
the book.
The book. It's like with a
Only
capital
with
B.
Joris, but it's, yeah, I think that's a very important one for us, and we are different than other people by not being engaged and doing that. We had some comments on that, like, "Eh, you are not engaged and you are doing the book." So we were like, yeah, because it's even more painful if you are doing the book and you are engaged and then you find out that really important stuff are not okay or you are not matching in those things, and then you need to break up. It's even more hard. So that's why we chose to do it before we were engaged, because you are talking about values, finances, the past, how, yeah, communication, what are your expectations out of marriage, how does that look like, and it you can different a lot from each other, and the things we had to discuss there, we wouldn't have discussed this on a normal date. It's not the typical things that you are talking about when you are in a relationship or dating. So for us it really was a big help.
And it is hard work,
Yeah, it is.
really hard work.
You will learn to work together on something there.
If you don't know
Yeah.
which book they're talking about, we have this one book here in every relationship. Everyone that gets married or that is kind of like dating and they're ready to get engaged, we offer a pre-marriage course. And then usually it is with either Tabitha and Maarten or with Trevor and Yvette, and probably in the future with you guys as well. Um, and like the book is actually called Before You Say I Do. And it's usually people kind of wait indeed until they're at least engaged, and then it's really a stressful period because planning a wedding is a heck of a lot of work. And then I've been a bridesmaid way too many times, so I know. um, and then you also have to do the book, but then you can't really dig into the topics like you probably should because you're so stressed to get everything planned and ready in time. Because then it just takes a lot of work.
And yours can say it's a lot of work, but if I look back on it, I really enjoyed those evenings when we were discussing together on these topics and just getting to know each other on a very other way and a different level of getting to know each other. So it's even a nice thing
Yeah.
to do.
But I think it just adds to, because I was going to ask what caused the big differences, but you've already mentioned quite a few things as in Trevor's Detox series, Emotional Healthy Woman. But I think one of the differences now is the book as well. And it's not necessarily about the book, or it doesn't necessarily need to be that one,
No.
but I think it's the intentionality behind it to create self-awareness, to work on that communication, to apply those things to where you're at. And I think that's probably the big difference if I listen to you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think with the book, indeed, it's not, you don't have to do that book, but also with we talking to it with it together and doing the stuff and then discussing it with Trevor and Yvette, and they go deeper into our answers because for us it's just like this. I say this and I say white, and he says black, and then they are going with you see, black and white is a big difference. Where will you find a middle way when you are married to handle these things? So they are challenging you and preparing you as well. Like, okay, when you are in practical situations, how will you together go through it? So it it's challenging, and it's not just having answered these questions but also being challenged on how well you handle certain situations together, and having those mentors that will give you tips and say, oh, but you are such a person and that's such that person. So yeah, I think the combination of all these things really will help and are difference for us. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are
Maybe I can jump onto one of the big things I try to do differently. Maybe not differently, but it came across my path, and then I said not no to the occasion. And I think one of the things is that I try to develop myself, because the more I develop myself, the better version of myself I can give to Lisa, and the other way around when she works on herself. So we talked about last week as well a bit about the love languages. Are you aware of these aptitude tests like Strengths Finder, Myers Briggs? All these things really gave me insight on the way how I function and what my traits are and characteristics and stuff like that, which gives me language to talk with Lisa around these things. So I gave her a few yeah, she did already a lot of stuff, but yeah, we discussed these things together, and then yeah, I think that also gives even in volunteering in church helped me a lot to grow on getting along in community, like from this very shy guy till the guy I'm now, getting along with people and yeah, being healed in the community and all that kind of stuff. So I think that is definitely investment you can make for yourself.
I think with that, maybe what like next to hearing Trevor speak about the Detox series, what has made you guys want to do things differently? What has made you decide that? I know I didn't prep that one.
It's like, where are we?
Nowhere, somewhere in the air you release. We're flying.
I think I wanted to do things differently than I've seen my parents do it. So for me, it's always been a bit of being rebellion against everything that they did at home. I wanted to do it differently. So that was my first motive. And then when I got out of that toxic relationship I had, I really made a decision for myself, like I need to do it differently, because every relationship will end up the same way if I'm not working on myself and on these things, because no relationship keep will stand if it's just that toxic. So for me, it was just like, if I want to have a healthy relationship, I need to work on it, and it will not just go like that. And it's not the other person that will do it. It's something that I need to do for myself. So for me, I think that was the big reason to do it.
Yeah, I think um, Trevor is all the time talking about good marriage and all that kind of stuff, and he gave us somewhere somehow along the way these information, and then it depends on the person how do you handle with it, and I think uh, I want to be this knight, doing being this hero and doing the things on the correct way. So my heart is kind of drawn into that, I think.
Okay. So, not last, but like voorlaatste. Okay. So, what are a few very practical things that you got out of dating for dummies so many years ago? Um, like very practical things, and how have they made a difference in how you approach dating?
It's really funny because the sermon from Trevor actually is sticking so hard into my brain that I this afternoon I bumped into, oh, what are the things he told about us, and uh, date at least one, give everybody at least one chance. Um, it's called, another thing is called the shaving boy. That's actually a warning for the ladies, because it's a guy who shaves already, but is actually handling like a boy instead of a man. You know, lower lower the expectations. What? Yeah.
I like it.
um, lower the stakes. Like, guys, it's just a date. Loosen up, relax. It can be the person you're dating, but on the other hand, make some fun because otherwise, yeah, it's a big thing for me. Be intentional. Um, limits in time. There are limits in time if you're dating. I once, not that long ago, I had a friend who heard the same sermon, and he said, "Yeah, I don't agree with what Trevor says." Trevor said, "There are 5 months to be married is too soon, but 5 years is too long." So if a guy is just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, then you just have to end the relationship. That was the advice Trevor gave us. So my friend said, "Yeah, I'm dating now for 2 years," and uh, and he said, "Yeah, I really don't agree with what Trevor says." And I explained him, if the girl is really like, "I want to get married," and if it is this guy, then she can push it by, if this guy is serious, then otherwise we go in the direction of marriage, or otherwise you break it up, and then you don't waste each other's time.
Yeah. Maybe just to clarify on that or put language in your mouth for that, is talking about commitment.
Oh, sorry.
So, as you're giving parts of your heart, is when you start dating, you don't put your whole heart on your sleeve out there for just anyone to grab. You don't do that. You just show a little bit that's appropriate. But your level of commitment when, like in that first few days, is really low. You can say no at any point. You can break it off, you can stop texting. Like, there is almost no level of commitment other than we're getting to know each other. Then once you get into a relationship, I mean, there's already a little bit more of commitment, but you also show a little bit more of yourself. So with that commitment, at that point, you at least expect each other to be faithful. That's already first, and to not be dating other people. So your commitment is a little bit higher than just getting to know one another. Once you get engaged, it's even more higher. So, as what you're talking about is the stage of your relationship, each stage has an appropriate commitment that you're making towards one another that you then also need to communicate and be clear about towards each other, and just be very clear, like, I expect you to be faithful once we got into that relationship, for example. But that's to kind of put the words and the language around what you're saying.
Really, just right on. Yeah, you just nailed it. So, and one of the last things I remember is your common ground, your common background, but also in the future, which is called the 4 C's, which is calling. Do you have the same calling? For instance, if Lisa has something for Belgium and I have something for Africa, yeah, how is that going to work? I really want to go to Africa and she's not coming along. Yeah, then you guys can go together. Then there is a character. Has the person values, and has the person, he or she has a high morality? If you're having that, so then chemistry and competence. Chemistry is like, is there a connection somewhere somehow? Is this just dead end? And then competence, is the guy or girl competent? And then we talked around that. That's like, are you ready to get into a relationship? So these are the really things I remember from that sermon, and that just popped up like that. So it really made a big impact into my life, and I know them by heart. So
I'm so glad you actually mentioned the 4 C's. But I mean, it's true. I was talking about it to someone else, and they were like, if you're not attracted to the person, if there's no chemistry, it's not gonna work. You're not gonna be able to last who knows how long if it's not there. But it's the same thing with calling, because I have friends like that got married, and he has a heart for the UK and for Belgium, and she has a heart for Africa, and she's frustrated because she's here, and the guy, and I'm like, wasn't maybe the smartest move to actually do that, but I mean, they did it anyway, so they're stuck with each other now. They need to make it work, and they do, but it's not the easiest choice to make. So, and it doesn't need to be the same calling necessarily. It needs to be compatible, I think. Like Joris can be called to cars, and Lisa can be called to, I don't know, women's ministry or something like that. I'm just saying, giving an example, but it needs to be compatible in some way. Um, just at least be in the same room, on the same continent, being able to flow together, so to speak. Yeah. So I'm really glad you mentioned the 4 C's. Thank you. So next to the 4 C's and what you just mentioned, are there any other practical lessons that you want to share about that you've learned from lessons from Lover's Lane, yeah, that you can share?
I would say take a risk, go on a date, say yes to a guy, and the guy ask a girl out. You don't know where it ends up, and yeah, see if you can make maybe a new friend. One of the other things, we're like, oh yeah, we made a clear decision. I actually, in my teenage years, I went to a camp, and there they taught us about sex and stuff like that. And they said, "Are you willing to sign a document where you promise you won't have sex before marriage?" So it was a hard fight, because your yes is yes and your no is no. And if you make a commitment, that is my high value. I just don't want to make. I don't want to go off road, So there I signed it, and until the day we married, I like, man, I draw this thing, the more you go into, the more you're getting together, getting to know each other a little bit better, and almost married. Then I can tell you, there are times. So. Yeah, and even in that, I don't know. I learned it now that it also can be a challenge. So if you're not intentional to do it, yeah, then you're going off track by that. But if you really made it clear for yourself and you put it into your heart, then it can be a way stronger value into your life. So um,
I think that's a good one because Wolfie, um, he is our Every Nation Europe director. He actually planted the first Every Nation church in Europe. Comes from South Africa, and he wrote a book. And I'll show you the book later tonight. But in the book, he talks about passion rules, and yeah, I mean, passion is a thing. But that's kind of what you're actually referring to. Like, I made the conscious decision to not let that happen, even though it's gonna be a struggle at sometimes. Um, yeah.
so one of the things Natanya already mentioned is guard your heart. You have these levels of commitment. Dating, relationship, and marriage isn't all the same. Um, Also, one of the things we mentioned already is I took Lisa to court, uh, which is one of the lessons we learned during the day talk from Trevor years ago. If he's listening, I don't know, is he listening? So let me let me explain that one. um, it was in the date talk book from Wolfie there. He mentioned, are you dating in isolation, or are you dating in community? And there it all comes down. So I took Lisa to my friends, and I took Lisa to my parents and my family. And later on, when she was away, I asked them, so what do you think? And I checked up, like, guys, are you okay? And some friends were honest, and other friends were like, no, it's so nice, you're ready, finally. So I'm like, okay, next thing. So but also she had an uncle and mom and her dad, and also a mentor for her, a few actually, and they put me on the on the court, and they said, so who are you and what are your intentions with this lovely lady? And I was like, yeah. So because I was honest, I could say in my own heart, like, I'm cool in this. This is the way I see it. But man, I can tell you, there were people. If I wasn't correctly, they really would have been protected her. So that means taking her to court. Um, then yeah, maybe you add them all.
Prayer, personal prayer, but also together. I think when you involve God in your journey, it's always a plus. So that's a really practical thing I would advise. Pray. God knows how you need, what kind of person that you need. When I was praying, I had not yours in mind, but I got a lot more than I prayed for. So that's one practical thing. Find mentors, like we said, Trevor and Yvette, but also from my side, I had some people, the small groups, and I had some people because I was going to another church in my church as well, who were really giving us advice and things like that. So I think it's really good to intentionally, even before you start dating, look at people where you can go to once you start dating. That yeah, that can help you, and be intentional with the things you do. Even working on yourself, you need to do that very intentionally. You do it for yourself, but also for the day you find someone, it's also for that person. And when you have kids, it's for your kids, that they will have also um, the benefits of the things that you are doing intentionally. So if you come to campus, do it intentionally to learn things and take them home, and it will make you a different person if you do these things. Yeah,
But don't forget to have fun while you're doing it.
indeed. A lot of fun. Make fun. Don't make it a too big
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Joris and Lissa. So
Maybe I can
Yes?
add something.
I noticed.
One of the things, I mentioned already. I was a really shy guy, and I just forgot my point actually. I was a really shy guy actually. Maybe it comes back during talking, but yeah, these are the things Lisa has to learn to deal with, and so at a certain point, it was my investment to get along people, and the more I was around people, the more I opened up and blossomed open to a more talkative person who is a bit more secure and all that stuff. So it doesn't come back. So it's
If
lost
it
in
comes back,
space.
Joris, you can always still share it.
Yeah.
But let's maybe ask, like, are there any questions for Joris and Lissa? Kyra, go for it. Maybe first finish the root course and then, like, after the summer.
I need to think about it.
Yes.
There are some people asking for it, so
So the question is, what are healthy boundaries around physical contact, right? Yeah. Um, if you're thinking about it, you're already too far. But a good friend gave me advice: what you don't have, you don't touch. Depending on what stage you are in, I'm not saying that it's okay, but depending on if you're in the first date and you're already touchative and stuff like that, for me that's even too far. But yeah, you have to talk this as well. These are things people talk around, and I had the intention to do it, and we tried it a few times, but yeah, I think we could do way better into that. But even that, like before you haven't even touched each other, I think you should have a decent conversation on. So, how do you see sex? How do you see touching you there? What does turn you on, or what? All these things, and you have to have talk maybe even in that kind of way that you don't. For me, when we talked about these things, I had to even be aware and protect my own heart that I would use this knowledge not in the bad way but in the good way, to respect Lisa more than to, oh yeah, I know these are points where she is sensitive to. So I think you have to be really wise in these things. So
I think it's not only about just touching that place, it's about what's coming next and next, because it goes much faster than you want. Because if you're doing a hug and then it goes one step further, and you will end up somewhere where you're like, how did we come this far if we just wanted to do that? And because on a certain point, I think it, you are in that emotion and you just go with the emotion, and the rational comes afterwards, and you're like, no, that was too far. So you really need to think. It's very difficult for us to say that's how far you can go, but you really need to think for yourself through, like, if I will allow this, it can lead to that, even if it wasn't what I wanted if I said this. So I think what Joris is saying, like what the other person don't have, you don't touch it, is a really good one already.
But I personally gonna hand over to my kids. If you're not looking for marriage yet, then be really aware. Then be really aware, and yeah, if that question pops up, it's like, guys, we need to talk very early, very soon. Yeah.
I think yes, or not everyone. We're gonna do a whole session on this next week. We're gonna do a complete Thursday evening on sex talk, which is very controversial in church, but for some reason we keep doing it. Well,
But
not for
it's
some reason. It's because you guys are the result of that.
it's super interesting, you know. It's awesome.
It
So
is. um, but yeah, I think it starts with, especially if you know your love language. For example, one of them is physical touch. If your love language is physical touch, you probably want to be even stricter or more careful with yourself on how far you go, how quickly, because physical touch, that's the way how you receive love, for example. So um, my first love language is physical touch, and I know I'm a huggy person. I hold hands. I enjoy if I just have someone put their hands on my shoulder, and I am very intentional with who I allow myself to give a hug to or who I don't, because for me it's a way of receiving love, but I also know um, that can very quickly lead to other things. But same thing with especially guys are a little bit more visual than women. For example, women are more emotional. Okay, then you know that. So it's about knowing each other's buttons, I think, as well, probably, and like you said, avoiding those.
not even know each other's, but in common, like you just mentioned, one of the examples is like women in general are more a bit like on the touchy,
Mm-hmm.
and guys are more visual. So even knowing by that and using that in the good way, Trevor also explains it like, if you have a car, I'm a car guy, so yeah, sorry, it's cars. So if you have a car and you rob a bank with it, I so like the idea. It's not used to it. It's not made for it. But if you just abuse it, so yeah,
Yeah. Think we're gonna go way deeper into that next week.
we hope to
Um,
see you next week.
I hope that's okay. Yes, but I hope this is already a little bit of an answer. So yeah. Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay. Then we'll probably say first goodbye to the people online because we are live streaming. Thank you so much for watching. And you guys as well, thank you so much for being here tonight. And then I just need to change the slide. Yep, to this one. Niklas.